Marvel fans, we've got to talk about that post-credit scene in Spider-Man No Way Home. What's the deal with Tom Hardy Venom in the MCU? What's up, everybody? It's Josh coming at you from Nerd Vengers Tower. Smash a like on this video if you thoroughly enjoyed Spider-Man No Way Home, and I expect just as many likes on this video as views, because if you didn't like that movie, you're not human. I kind of think that Kevin Feige had this strategy that he could do a little post-credit thing to bring Eddie Brock's Venom into the MCU, but then immediately was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, sure, you can utilize a little bit of the hype to sort of help your movie out there, Sony. We'll let it linger that Eddie Brock Venom could be in Spider-Man No Way Home, but then as soon as I sure up this multiverse stuff, I'm booting his ass right back over to your Sony movie universe. And I'm kind of joking there, obviously, but I'm also kind of not, because I really don't think this is what Sony wanted to do with this crossover and relationship. But let's explain the scene. Let's talk about the scene that is in the post-credits of Spider-Man No Way Home, and let's kind of explain what I think is going on here. So we see Eddie Brock quite drunk at a resort, seemingly the resort that he was transported to in the post-credit scene of Let There Be Carnage. And he's asking the bartender to clarify these different heroes. He's writing things down. He's talking about a billionaire that had a tin suit, referring to Iron Man. He talked about the green guy that was really, really angry, referring to Hulk, and they even talk about Thanos, the alien that loves gems and stones. And it is after hearing that Thanos snapped away the bartender's family for 5 years that Eddie sort of has a moment where he's like, wow, 5 years is a long time. Maybe I should travel to New York and see this Spider-Man. And then it is right then that Eddie and Venom are transported back to their native universe via the spell that Doctor Strange casts at the end of the movie that makes everybody forget that Tom Holland is Peter Parker. There's a little bit of the Venom symbiote left on the bar, and it does move, seemingly indicating that that is a sentient piece of the Venom symbiote, which will probably come to interact with Tom Holland. Now, yes, on the surface, this is a sort of frustrating back and forth kind of a game here, and it really does feel like Eddie Brock was just brought in to the Marvel Cinematic Universe just to kind of become aware of it, and then he gets sucked back immediately, and there's just a little piece of the Venom symbiote that will now interact seemingly with Spider-Man. But you see, there's actually more going on in this post-credit scene and the last post-credit scene than you might think on the surface. In fact, let's just talk about the fact that Eddie Brock and Venom are brought in to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general. We now understand better what the spell actually was that brought people into the universe. And what's really interesting is it brings in people from separate universes that know that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Now, as far as we know it, there is no Spider-Man or Peter Parker in the Venom universe. Eddie Brock definitely does not have that information, but it seems like Venom does. In fact, this post-credit scene from Spider-Man No Way Home kind of proves a theory I had about the post-credit scene from Let There Be Carnage to be correct. In the post-credit scene for Let There Be Carnage, Venom says to Eddie, I have countless knowledge from millions of years and across different universes. He's making mention of the multiverse, meaning that the hive mind of the symbiote has knowledge from all across the multiverse. And even in that shot, when you see Tom Holland on the screen, Venom says, that guy, and in the tone that he said it, it made me immediately think that Venom knew about Spider-Man and knew about Peter Parker. And so that's why they get sucked over to the MCU, and that is why they get sent back with the spell. And this leaves the Eddie Brock character in a really interesting place, because he's now aware of a universe where there are a ton of different heroes. He's now seen a ton of different villains and what that can be like. And he also becomes aware of the Thanos event, where this being, this alien, this purple alien, makes half of the universe disappear for 5 years. And I personally think that even though we might be a little disappointed that Venom and Spider-Man aren't going to link up, in the MCU, or, it doesn't seem as though that will happen right away, the information and the knowledge of different universes and the knowledge of different aliens that are out there, I think are going to be actually super important for Eddie Brock and where he goes from here. It could mean that if other beings come into Eddie Brock's universe from different universes, he could know what that is like and sort of be set up for handling that and trying to figure out a way to send them back. And I think the wider thing to keep in mind here as a Marvel fan is that this is just the beginning of multiverse stuff going on. I believe that the spell that Strange casts in No Way Home that actually like breaks open the multiverse or the sort of balance between time and space throughout the universe was already very fragile. This is sort of hinted at by Doctor Strange in the beginning of Spider-Man No Way Home when he's talking about how crazy they played with the different mechanics of time and space. The idea that the multiverse is something they know frighteningly little about. And I believe that Endgame and the events of Endgame are really what created the fragility of the multiverse, which allowed for this botched spell to sort of bring other people in. Now, we also know there's crazy stuff going on with Wanda, and there's crazy stuff going on with the TVA and Kang. And perhaps all of this is happening somewhat at the same time. Regardless, Strange doing the new spell at the end of No Way Home only solves one problem, and I don't think it fixes the multiverse. In fact, if you think about the trailer for Multiverse of Madness, which also plays as a post-credit of No Way Home, Doctor Strange is repeating some of the things that he said to Peter from Spider-Man No Way Home about the fabric of space-time and the multiverse. So I think that even though he fixes all of the people that knew Peter coming into the multiverse itself is still broken in some regard. Now, we know the movie Multiverse of Madness is really going to surround Wanda trying to go throughout the multiverse to get her kids, and she can't quite just manifest into another reality, and there are still rules like that going on. So I don't know, man. There's still a lot to sort of explain about that, but the main thing to keep in mind is that I think a lot of things are going on. The multiverse is very weak. It's breaking all over, and that it's not all just put back together at the end of No Way Home. So now Eddie has all this knowledge of the multiverse, and if we just take a step back and think about what Sony and Marvel are doing, I think you're going to see a lot more multiversal stuff. I mean, look at Across the Spider-Verse. You see the little hand things that Miguel O'Hara has, the ability to travel through these hexagonal sort of pathways from universe to universe. And I want to bring up this answer that Tom Hardy gave back during the press for Venom Let There Be Carnage, where he's talking about Venom 3 in the future. He mentions Spider-Verse, he mentions the Venomverse, and he mentions the multiverse.
There's a Venomverse, there's a Spider-Verse, there's multiverses, there's all kinds of canon and lore and mythology to explore.
And I've said this before, but yeah, I think there's a big plan going on here. I think Marvel and Sony have figured out how to make their stuff work together. And I think throughout Across the Multiverse, you may get even more opening of different dimensions, different Spider-Man traveling into other universes. And if there really is not a Spider-Man in Eddie Brock's universe, maybe Eddie Brock is the totem, the spider of that universe. So I'm basically saying, even though it feels like it's kind of being yanked around and maybe they won't meet up, I actually strongly feel that a lot of stuff is being established which will pay off. It's not all for nothing. In fact, let's now talk about a big crazy Venom 3 rumor that is out there. This is from Small Screen Leaks. I've talked about this in other videos, but essentially it is that Tom Holland is set to co-star in Venom 3. He is apparently going to be a big part of the Venom 3 movie. And again, it feels like the table is being set for multiversal craziness, and perhaps Across the Spider-Verse will bring the way by which Peter will get over to the Sony universe. But it kind of makes sense to me that you could have Peter with the symbiote, maybe then being brought across and having Venom and Black Suit Spider-Man teaming up, doing some crazy stuff over there with the Venom character. We've heard that the Black Suit Venom in the MCU will have the actual white spider logo on it, which is pretty sick. But this could be a really interesting way for maybe after Venom 3, when Tom Holland says, hey man, I can't use the symbiote like you can. We need to have this piece go back to your Venom, and then that would allow Eddie Brock's Venom to then have the spider on it, in sort of a weird way to get to the spider symbol on the Venom symbiote, but I kind of like it. So a lot of speculation, a lot of sort of ancillary things filling in the gaps for us here. Maybe you hate this post-credit scene, you hate what Sony and Marvel are doing. Maybe you're a big MCU stan and you didn't want Eddie Brock's Venom involved. Either way, let me know your thoughts about this and what do you expect to see from Sony and Marvel in the future. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to our channel to see more of our content pop up in your recommended feed. Go check us out on TikTok, the podcast on Spotify, and make sure you're checking out the live streaming channel where we have a ton of fun hanging out with all the Nerd Vengers. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.